Let's get some prize picks in today, guys. Last night I gave 5 slips. We're going to be recapping all of them. This was the first one here. I went with Lamar Jackson, Zay Flowers on the overs. They both went under. So the stack worked, just got the direction wrong. And same thing here with Jordan Love, Brock Purdy, plus Jaden Reed, Debo. Debo obviously got injured yesterday, so he was out with the reboot. Anyways, that one was chalked. This other one down here was super close to Brock Purdy. CMC needed a couple more yards each. Just 14-ish yards on Brock Purdy, and then McCaffrey only needed 3. So pretty close on that one. Kittle also hit, and I don't think Brandon Ayuk hit at all. So like I said, this is the best stack to go with when you're taking San Fran. I'm going to be taking it next time. I'm going to be taking it next game too. So those are 2 slips that missed. And then the other one was on Jalen Brunson here, Kyle Kuzma, Randall. Then you see it here, went 4 out of 6 on the NBA. So pretty decent on the NBA there. And then there is still 2 slips that are alive from yesterday. So I gave 5 slips. If one of these hits, right, these pays 10x. So even if just this one hits, and it's looking good so far, right? There are only 2 legs left. That is going to cash all the slips from last night. So we played 5 slips. That's minus 5 units plus 10 right here. If this hits, obviously it needs to hit. And that's going to be 5 units of profit. So right now we have Dalton plus Rice and Allen plus Mahomes left here. So if you guys didn't get this part of the slip with the unders here in the Baltimore-Houston game, you can still grab this combo here, but you're going to have to pair it up with something else. We're going to see if this one ends up loading in nicely tonight. And then this is another slip that hasn't even started yet. I gave it in yesterday's video, but I'll give it in today's too, if you guys didn't see yesterday's. Kelsey, Mahomes on the over pass yards, over receiving yards. And then I went Goff and Amon on the under pass attempts, under receiving targets. Of course, this is a prop that's super correlated. A lot of people go pass yards, receiving yards. But I mean, this is the same thing, right? If Goff's throwing like only 28 pass attempts, it's very, very unlikely that Amon's going to be getting 11 receiving targets. He might get like 9, 10. But this is super correlated, especially on Detroit. And Detroit has a pretty decent spread here at -6. So they are expected to have a lead for the majority of the game. So you could see Goff throwing less, meaning, of course, Amon is going to be less of a target if Goff is not really throwing the ball. Then I took Mahomes and Kelsey on the overs. There's 2 possible scripts that could help this. One is a shootout, which is going to really help this one up here, right? To have the overs on Josh Allen and Mahomes. But if it's a shootout, of course, Mahomes and Kelsey are going to get their yards. Also, if Casey is behind, so tonight the spread is -2.5 in favor of the Bills. So if the Bills do get a nice lead, that's going to help Mahomes throw the ball more, and hopefully Kelsey's getting more of those yards than Rashee Rice. But if Rashee Rice is getting them too, then this one fills up too. So basically I'm covered on a couple angles here, and I'm going to be covering myself on another angle in the pick for today. So I'm going to go just to NFL. It's not going to be any NBA picks, but for the NFL, what I'm looking at here is the best possible stack I found right now in terms of positive EV and just where the odds are favored is Mahomes under completions. So on the under 24.5, let me find him right here. Under 24.5 pass completions on Mahomes, and then Rice on the under 6.5 receptions. And again, you can see how this perfectly hedges my other slip because I have Rice and Mahomes over in that combo slip, and I have Mahomes and Kelsey over pass yards, receiving yards in that other slip. So this kind of hedges my exposure to Mahomes over. So now I have some under exposure. And what I also have is a game script where Casey is going up. So how could I fill out the slip to perfectly encapsulate that? Well, first, let's look into the odds of these players, why I'm even going them with in the first place. Mahomes under 24.5 completions, looking very good. Juice on most sportsbooks towards that under, -130 here, -119, and -122. Jim is the only one that has slight juice towards the over, but I am liking the under here. I think it's a good pick. On Rice, we have juice on every single sportsbook towards the under, and that's a pretty heavy juice, all the way up to -133, -135. So clearly the under is the play on this pick. And if these guys are going under, it's likely they have the lead in this game. So no longer the Bills in the lead. We have Casey in the lead, which means that Buffalo is going to have to play from behind. So we're going to grab Josh Allen on his over passing yards. And now with the receivers, you could go with a couple. I personally like to take Dalton on the over receiving yards, but you could probably go with Shakir here. Shakir's a safe one. Obviously, Diggs is the popular one that everyone's going to go with, main receiver. But I prefer going with Dalton. I've checked these stats, and basically Diggs has only hit 50% of the time this season. So like if Josh Allen goes over, Diggs only went over with him 50% of the time this season. But at the same time with Diggs, he has gone over or under in the past 5 games together. So that's also good to see. But Dalton hits a little bit better this season. He has hit about 58% of the time this season going over or under together. So that's why I'm going with Dalton instead of Diggs. You could also go with Shakir, like I said. But this is probably my favorite lineup based on the stats that I actually have. So this is a perfectly correlated slip. And if Casey does go up, I think this is very easy to hit. It does pay 9.5x because of the nerfs on correlation recently. But I mean, even at 9.5x, it's super good. This next slip, we're going to do something similar, but in the Tampa game. So to start, we're going to go with Baker Mayfield on the over 35.5 pass attempts. I think there's some decent value on this one. Some sportsbooks even have them set at 36.5. And every other one has them either flat at 35.5 or with juice towards the over here on DraftKings and Caesars. So that is going to be the first leg of the entry. And of course, we're going to be pairing this with a receiving target. So obviously there's 2 you could go with. There's Mike Evans and Chris Godwin. So Mike Evans has not cleared this in the past 5 games. He has been going under quite often here. And Chris Godwin only cleared this twice in the past 5. I'm not too concerned about the past 5. I mean, it's a different game setting here, playoffs, as well as the fact that they might be playing from behind a good majority of this game. So what I'm thinking here is Mike Evans over Chris Godwin, and I was just checking on Underdog what the targets are set up for these people. So Chris is set at 7.5 and Mike Evans set at 8.5. So that is kind of a good indicator that maybe Chris Godwin's too high on Prizepicks. I looked into the bit and Chris Godwin was targeted 130 times this season and caught 83 of those targets. So if you check that, that's about a 63% hit rate. You just do 83 divided by 130. So out of those 64%, if you times that by the 8.5 targets, and his receptions line should be set at about 5.42. It's set at 5.5. Of course, you're not going to set at 5.4. So it's pretty accurate. I think 8.5 is the good spot for him. And then his under is also juiced. His under receptions is juiced towards the under 5.5. I think Mike Evans might be the better play because I don't like the fact that Underdog has him at 7.5. Maybe they're sleeping here, but maybe they have a little bit more data than me to kind of set him at 7.5. Maybe they feel like that's fair. It's not even like it's at 8. It's at 7.5. So that's why I'm going to go with Mike Evans because at least Prizepicks and Underdog agree that the 8.5 is probably where he should be set at. I looked at the same thing for Mike Evans, and basically he has about a 60% catch rate on these, so 79 out of 136. If you do that right now, 79 divided by 136, 58% catch rate, and his line is set at 8.5. So his receptions should be set at 5, and that's exactly what it's set at on Prizepicks. If you look at it in the receptions tab here, 5 receptions, and Chris Godwin at 5.5. So I think these lines are pretty much fair at what they are at. Kind of makes sense to me why they're both set at 8.5. So I'm going to be going with Baker because of the good value on that, and then Mike Evans on the over 8.5 receiving targets. Godwin's going to get the targets today. Go for that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Both these guys are very good picks to go with Baker Mayfield over attempts. Because we're taking Tampa over attempts, we want to be taking unders on Detroit. Again, we're going for a game script here that kind of Detroit's in the lead, and they don't really have to throw the ball. They're kind of just cruising through the game. So we're taking the over on Tampa, and then we could do, I'm not going to go with the targets on Amon or things like that, but I will go with the passing yards instead. Grab Jared Goff on the under 279.5. And then we're going to go grab Amon on the under 94.5 receiving yards. We do actually capture a bit of value on this. I believe their lines are set a bit higher than that. Let's go check on Bet365 very quickly here. So Jared Goff's 279.5 is fair. Amon here set at 93.5 on Sportsbook. So we get 1 yard of value on the under. And yes, you only get the 9.5x, but it's perfectly coordinated. It's exactly like the last slip I just made. So with a Detroit lead, they pass less, and then Tampa passes more. It's a very simple concept there. That's going to be the last slip for the video. About 3 slips for tonight. Good luck, everyone.